Now let's add a new URL and a new route that allows the user to query our review table by grade. So the user would enter the grade received and hit submit, and the user would get a list of reviews from students who got that specified grade. So here, if the user specifies A, they get all the reviews associated with the grade A. If they specify B, they get all the reviews associated with B. So let's go ahead and implement this improvement in our web app. So there's the HTML template, more.html. It's also available on Canvas. Please download it to follow along. Make sure you save more.html in the templates folder. So here again, we have a form. The form allows the user to enter a grade and click on the submit button. When the user clicks on submit, a post request is sent to the server. The server is then supposed to retrieve all the reviews associated with that grade and send them to be displayed on that page. Let's see how to implement this route next. We go back to our Flask app DB module. We have to add a route and associate it with a function. Since this route includes a form and has to handle post requests, it's important that we add support for both methods here. Otherwise, the route will not be able to handle post requests. And we associate a function with that route. We just happen to call it more here. We could have used another name. Now we initialize an empty list, and then if the user hits submit, we get the grade submitted from the form, and then we invoke filter and specify the grade as our review.grade. So this is how we filter by grade. Remember, grade is an instance variable in the review class. So this is how we filter by grade. But just calling filter does not actually return the results. We have to call all on the results of this query to get the list. And now we can render the template more and pass these results to our more template. Note that inside filter, we can use any comparison operator. So it doesn't have to be equal. We could have said less than or greater than or not equal here. So a couple of things about filter. Filter is invoked on a query object, and it returns a query object that contains fewer rows. To filter by more than one attribute, we can chain calls to filter. So we can take the return value and invoke filter on it again. And sometimes it's useful to do that in steps. It's more readable to do it in steps. So we write query equals, and we get the result from the first filtering operation. And then if some condition is met, we can apply a second filter. And then at the end, we can invoke all or first on the resulting query object. And we get either a list of results or just a single result. Now let's go back to our more template. If there are results in the query, if there are reviews matching this grade, then we want to display the table with all the relevant results. So now that we have made the changes and added the route to our Flask app DB module, let's test this route. Let's make sure our server is running. Mine was not running. And then let's open our browser and see what we get when we click on more. And here's the form. So now let's say I want to find all the reviews that were submitted from students who got an A. And here's what I get. I get 2 reviews. But there's a problem here. Can you spot it? The problem is that the grade that the user entered is not shown anymore. It would be nice to have it shown here. Let's fix that. We go to our more template and add a value. This is the initial value that's going to be used for the form. And we are going to use a grade variable. We need to pass that grade variable to render template. So we go back to our move function. We initialize that grade variable to the empty string first, and then we pass it back to the template. So we're essentially saving the grade that is entered by the user and sending it back to the template when we render the results. Let's take a look now. And the grade is displayed correctly. Now let's add one more tweak. When no grade is specified, we would like to show all the reviews corresponding to all the grades. So let's implement that. So we start by getting all the reviews. We save the query object in the variable query. Then if we have a grade, if the user specified a grade, then we invoke filter on our query object. We save the result in the same variable query. In both cases, we get our results by calling all on our query object. Let's try that. And it works. We got all the reviews. Let's check that we didn't break the previous behavior. Here we're getting the right reviews. Let's add one more enhancement. When no review matches the grade selected, we would like to display a different message. So for instance, when the user enters C and no student who received a grade of C happened to have entered a review, we would like to display the message, no student who received a grade of C has reviewed the course yet. So let's implement that. So let's go to our more template. Note that the table is displayed if there are results. We would like to display the special message when there are no results and no grade. So let's add an elif branch here. Now let's go to our browser and try this. We specify a grade of C, hit submit, and we get the message. We have seen how to add entries to the database. We have seen how to query the database. We can also delete entries from a table in the database. So let's add a route to delete reviews. The question here is, how do we identify the review to be deleted? So we have the review ID that was automatically added. In order to delete a review, we're going to have to know its ID. So we can create a template for the delete route, and we have to have a form here, and we have to enable post requests. So the user would have to enter the review number, that's the ID in the reviews table, and then click on the delete button to delete it. Here's the HTML form corresponding to that. We also have to go to our module and add a delete route. For the delete route, we have to enable the post and the get methods. And here we do something similar to what we did for adding a review. We have to check that the request method is post. If it is, we get the ID from the form. And let's go back here to the form. You can see that the ID here is the name of that input field. Okay, so that's where we're getting that name from. So we'll get the ID from the form. Then we get the object corresponding to that ID from the table. We use get on the query object. So review.query.getID gives us the object that corresponds to that ID. So if we have something, because the user may have specified an ID that does not exist in our table. So if ID returns something, if we have an object with that ID, we call delete on that object and commit. And then we render the template delete.html. in both cases, whether we have a post request or a get request here. We can also add a route to update a specific entry. So here again, we have to do two things. We add an update template, and here's what our update template looks like. So here in the form, we have to include the review number, the new comment, and the new grade. And each one of these has a name. So we have an ID, a comment, and a grade, and we access them in the function corresponding to that route. So we go back and add a function corresponding to the update route. We have to enable post and get. And for post, again, we get the record corresponding to that ID. And then if there's such a record in our table, then we basically make the changes by changing the instance variables of the object. So we get the comment, we get the grade, we set the instance variable of our to update object to that, and we commit. And that's it. Now we know how to update an entry in a relational database. We have been able to create entries, query the database, delete and update entries in a relational database without writing a single SQL statement. We've done that through Python. Isn't that cool?